Yes, how are we all? I hope all is well. My name is Sachin, and this is the Total Cricket Podcast, episode 23. Today, I'm going to be previewing the Test series between England and the West Indies, so let's get started. The first Test begins on Thursday at Edgbaston, and it will be the first day-night Test match hosted in England. I think this landmark event in English cricket history will certainly add some much needed interest to this series when you consider the fact that the opposition is really devoid of star players. And it seems to be the case, as ticket sales have been very good apparently for this game. So that is definitely pleasing to hear. Now let's get some context in this series. For England, well, this is actually a very important series for England. You might think it's not when you consider the quality of the opposition, but this is their last series before the Ashes, their last chance to get their combination right before they go down under. Are they going to finally solve that top order conundrum? Are they going to be able to bring back guys like Chris Woakes into the fray? These are the things that they will really look to do, I feel, in this series. And when you look at the first game in particular, this is their first day-night test. And they play a day-night test at Adelaide in the Ashes. So this first game in particular is very important to give England an opportunity to get used to the pink ball, batting in artificial light, all the factors that are involved in day-night test cricket. So this is actually a really important series for England. For the West Indies, this is probably as tough a test as they will face. It's an inexperienced side, and it's a side, on the most part, lacking in test quality. So really, this is a case of the West Indies trying to compete, players learning and evolving and becoming better cricketers. That's what it's about for the West Indies. Now, looking more closely at the two teams, let's start with England and looking at the squad that England have picked. Keaton Jennings, as expected, was dropped after a dismal series against South Africa, and as expected as well, Tom Wesley and David Malan have been retained. Stephen Finn, he drops out of the squad as well, and in comes Chris Woakes, who is now back from injury, so that's certainly a big boost for England. And a little bit of a surprise selection, Mason Crane getting a call up, the 23-year-old leg spinner who was actually playing in the Sheffield Shield for New South Wales last summer because he couldn't get a game before in English county cricket. So a lot has changed for him. Definitely England's search for a wrist spinner, I think, definitely factoring into that one. And his selection would appear to spell the end of Adil Rashid's chances of becoming a test match regular. Looking at the side that England will probably go in with, I think you're going to see one definite change is that Mark Stoneman is going to come in for Keaton Jennings. Mark Stoneman, probably the most predicted, most people thought that he would be the guy to replace Jennings. He's 30 years old, so he's not the youngest, but obviously does have a lot of experience at the county level, and also he has had a fantastic season with Surrey. Yet another left-handed batsman, and this is a big series. He's going to have to perform here, and him performing would really help England greatly because if he doesn't, they have real problems, basically a crisis situation at opener heading into the Ashes. So for England's sake, they will definitely hope that Mark Stoneman can hit the ground running in this series. He won't get too much of a better opportunity against the West Indies. So definitely, really, it's up to him to deliver. Looking at the rest of the team I would believe would be unchanged from that fourth test against South Africa. I can't see Mason Crane being involved in this game, but I think the one possible other change is Chris Woakes returning to the team. Now, that would have to be at the expense of David Malan, and if that was the case, you'd have Stokes, Bairstow, and Moeen Ali all shifting up one place in the order, which would allow Chris Woakes to slot in at number 8. But the issue I have with that is that it would slightly weaken England's batting and really put more pressure on Stokes, Bairstow, and Ali than they've already been under. And the other thing is, I feel like Chris Woakes, is he actually ready? Now, he's only played one county game since returning from injury. Obviously, the NatWest T20 blast has been ongoing over the last few months in England, and as such, the county championship has not been played. There's only been one round of the county championship since the NatWest T20 blast started, and Chris Woakes played in that for Warwickshire, and he did get a 50 and 5 wickets in that game. So definitely a good return for Chris Woakes coming back from injury, but that was a week ago. The next round of the county championship isn't for another 2 weeks. So how is he going to get that game time in? It's very difficult. Such is the scheduling, the clash with T20 cricket, which really has meant that England are a little bit underdone coming into this game, to be quite honest. So I would think that Chris Woakes might still have to wait a little bit to get an opportunity. I would probably assume he might come in for the second game. So I would believe that, as I said before, it would just be Mark Stoneman coming in for Keaton Jennings and the rest of the team unchanged. But certainly Chris Woakes, it's big that he's coming back. I think he adds a bit of pace to this attack, which is quite one-dimensional, I feel. Although it's a very good attack, there's no pace. Chris Woakes can bowl 135, 140, and also he's a very handy lower-order batsman. So certainly England will be hoping he can get up to speed quite quickly. Now, looking at the West Indies, well, for me, the West Indies, obviously they are still missing their best Test batsman in Darren Bravo, but hopefully we do see him soon. As I've talked about before, he has apologised to the WICB, so hopefully not too long from now, we do see Darren Bravo back in a West Indies shirt. It is a little bit weird to see him playing in the CPL while the West Indies are over here in England, but that's just how it is. But I think their team is actually quite settled. Looking at the lineups they'd had across the 3 tour games that they have played so far, I think you can get a pretty good sense of what their team is going to be. I think you look at the top of the order, it's going to be Craig Brathwaite and Kieran Powell opening the batting. Then Kyle Hope will make his Test debut, I feel, coming in at number 3. And then you'll have at number 4, I believe that they will go with Shai Hope. Number 5 will be Roston Chase. 6, Jermaine Blackwood. 7, Shane Dowrich, the keeper. And then the bowlers. This is where the question mark is. Will they go with 3 fast bowlers and Devendra Bishu, or will they go with an all-seam attack? Now, looking at their team that they played in the last tour game against Derbyshire, I think they might be leaning towards 4 seamers. Those would be Jason Holder, Shannon Gabriel, Kemar Roach, and Alzari Joseph. Now, Devendra Bishu, funnily enough, has career best figures in the day-night test that the West Indies played last year against Pakistan. He got 8 for 49 in the second innings of that game. But I think it's important to note that this game is being played in England and not in the UAE. And also looking at the West Indies team, Roston Chase often bowls quite a bit his part-time off-spinners, and also Craig Brathwaite bowls part-time off-spinners. So I feel like the West Indies will look to cover the spin options with those two and play to their strength, which is their fast bowling, and play that all-seam attack on what is likely to be a greenish surface. That's usually the case with day-night tests to help protect the ball a little bit from getting too scuffed up. So definitely I would predict that the West Indies will go with that all-seam attack in this game. Looking at this team for the West Indies from the last one, you'll have Kyle Hope instead of Shimron Hetmar. Shimron Hetmar is in the squad, but he did look out of his depth in the last Test series against Pakistan, although clearly a very talented player. Was a big star in the West Indies under-19 World Cup winning campaign just last year, but I think still not quite there at the Test level. Then at number 6, I think it's going to be, as I said, Jermaine Blackwood, who's played quite a few Tests, will come back in place of Vishal Singh, who has been completely dropped from the squad. He was absolutely awful in the series against Pakistan. At least Shimron Hetmyer showed some talent. Vishal Singh looked like a tail ender in that series, could not get a run. In terms of the bowling, I think it's really good for the West Indies that Kemar Roach is back in the team. He's been missing for about a year from the West Indies team. I believe that the last time we saw him was when Australia toured the West Indies a couple of years ago. But it's good to see Kemar Roach back. He's got over 100 Test wickets, and he's a guy who's played a lot of Test cricket. And at the end of the day, Kemar Roach at his best can swing the ball both ways and bowls with pace. I think he's lost a little bit of pace with age, but he's still someone who can really do some damage. And he has been West Indies' best bowler so far in the tour games. And then really the only other change is that Raymond Reifer, the right-arm seamer, is also being introduced into the squad, but he didn't impress in the tour game he played, so I doubt he gets a sniff. Miguel Cummings, he's the other player in the squad again. He's played a few Tests, but he also did not impress in the tour game that he played. So definitely, I think that's the West Indies team. Looking at the series as a whole, I have a feeling that this series will be very similar to the recent Sri Lanka versus India series. This is going to be a whitewash, I feel almost certainly, and really it's a question of can the West Indies even compete? That for me is really the question. When you look at the West Indies, their batting is very, very weak. They really don't have a lot of quality and a lot of experience. The only guy who has any kind of Test match experience of note is Craig Brathwaite, who's been around for a while. He's the vice captain, and he does have Test centuries to his name. 5 to be precise, in the 37 Tests that he's played. But apart from that, there's not a lot of quality there. No one averages over 40 in this team except for Roston Chase, who is new to Test cricket. And he's had a great start to Test cricket, to be fair. He's got hundreds against India and Pakistan, 3 Test hundreds so far in his early career, and he's really been the big bright spot for the West Indies in the past year, his emergence. So definitely a big series for him. But this batting lineup has really struggled for runs. In the last 20 Tests the West Indies have played, they haven't even scored 400 once. And bear in mind that they play on slow, low pitches at home. But in England, they're going to come across green pitches that offer assistance for the faster bowlers. So it isn't going to get any easier for them. And it's shown so far on this tour. If you have a look at the tour games, they've been playing against second string county opposition. Sussex and Derbyshire, sorry, not Sussex, it was Derbyshire and Kent. They are Division 2 county teams. They did play Essex, who are a Division 1 team, but at the end of the day, they've been playing second 11s because these teams, full team, have been involved in the NatWest T20 Blast. And even then, the West Indies batting has not set the world on fire. They haven't been dominant. To be fair, 4 of the top 5 have scored centuries so far. The only one who hasn't is Craig Brathwaite. He's actually struggled, and the West Indies really need him to come back into form because he is one of their more experienced players. But I can't see this batting lineup putting up 300 in this series, to be honest. I would be surprised if they scored 300 in any innings, and that is the bare minimum you need to be competitive in a Test match. But the West Indies do have some good fast bowlers, and that's their big hope. Their fast bowlers, Jason Holder's really coming of age, Alzari Joseph, really young, talented, quick, Shannon Gabriel, he can bowl quick, 145, but he does have fitness and rhythm issues. He's just come back from an injury, and he has been an injury-prone player. And in the tour match against Derbyshire, he bowled 24 no balls in the 13 overs he sent down. So definitely issues in terms of his rhythm. But if Shannon Gabriel can get it right, he can be lethal. And again, as I said before, Kemar Roach, definitely a big boost having him back. So the West Indies will hope to expose those weaknesses in the England top order if they are to have any chance. But I just can't see their batting being good enough to win them test matches at the end of the day. Although the one thing that the West Indies have over England is their experience with the pink ball. They have played a day-night test match, most of these players, and that tour match against Derbyshire just a few days ago it finished, was a day-night game with the pink ball. So they have had practice. They've had match practice. England have not. They haven't had a practice game with it, and they haven't played a day-night test before. So that might be in the West Indies' favour, although I don't think that's going to put them over the top in winning this game. So as I said, I still see an England victory in this one, but it'll be very interesting, definitely. Obviously, day-night test cricket's still quite novel, so certainly I will be keeping my eyes on this game. Now, moving on to the next thing I want to talk about, and that is the CPL. We're now about halfway through the tournament, and well, just looking at it so far, as I said in my first little roundup of the CPL, the Trinbago Knight Riders continue to be the team to beat. They have been really setting the league on fire. They are top of the table on 10 points. They've won 5 of their 6 games. St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots, they've also been pretty decent. They're on 3 wins from 4 games, as are the Jamaica Talawas. Then you've got the Barbados Tridents, they're 2 for 4. And then the struggling teams, the Guyana Amazon Warriors, are 1 out of 4. And the St. Lucia Stars, wow, they've lost all 6 games. Darren Sammy's team, dismal so far. But this tournament is obviously a round robin. Each team plays one another twice, so they all play 10 games apiece. So we are basically halfway through the tournament now. And really, as I said, the standout team is the Trinbago Knight Riders. They've got a really good team. Look at that bowling lineup. Shadab Khan, Sunil Narayan, Dwayne Bravo, Kevon Cooper, Ronsford Beaton. That's quality right there. And they're batting. They've got Brendan McCullum. They've got Sunil Narayan, who showed how dangerous he can be in the IPL, this last IPL season. And then you've got Colin Munro. You've got Dinesh Ramdin, who scored a really nice 50 in the last game for them. And you've got obviously Darren Bravo, Dwayne Bravo. This team is stacked. They've got the second top run scorer in Colin Munro, and they've got 4 of the top 7 wicket takers in Shadab Khan, Kevon Cooper, Dwayne Bravo, and Sunil Narayan. So definitely these guys looking like a really dominant team, and certainly they have set the bar quite high for the rest of the league. Now, I think what's interesting development in the CPL is that the Pakistan players are basically being told to come back to Pakistan. Now, apparently this is because of the proposed World 11 game that is being brought forward apparently. So the Pakistan players need to be back to train and get ready for that a little bit earlier. And as such now, they are not being allowed to stay for the duration of the tournament, which is a huge blow. They have to report to Pakistan apparently by the 22nd of August. So I think most of them will be playing their last game in the CPL really in the coming few days. And we're only halfway through the tournament. It's a big blow to the tournament because there's 10 Pakistanis in the league. There's 18 overseas players who play in the tournament. Each team has 3, and that means over half of the overseas contingent is leaving the competition. So certainly the quality of the tournament will take a dip. How are these players going to be replaced? Well, obviously they have backups in the squad, but if you look elsewhere, most other teams are engaged or are soon to be engaged in international commitments. You already have quite a few New Zealand players. Really, you're going to have to go to some South Africans potentially, maybe even go to associate teams, some Zimbabwe players perhaps as well. So certainly there is a little bit of scraping the bottom of the barrel going on here. And definitely it's not great for the CPL, which I feel the as I said previously, the quality of the international players is decidedly second tier, and this recent development just adds to that feeling. Obviously, for the Pakistan players, hopefully that World 11 game does go ahead, which is obviously scheduled to be played in Pakistan. Really, it's important that cricket returns to Pakistan, and any steps that can go towards that obviously, certainly are a good thing. So, moving on to the final thing I want to talk about today, and that is the Kia Super League, the start of the tournament. We have had 5 games so far, so we're a third of the way through the competition. Obviously, this is the Women's Franchise 2020 tournament in England, the second edition of the tournament. You have 6 teams, and they play a round robin, but instead of playing each other twice like they do in the CPL, they play each other just the once. So it's a short and sweet tournament. And as I said, we're 5 games in, and really the Southern Vipers have already stamped their authority on the tournament as big favourites. They've had 2 bonus point wins, huge wins to start the tournament. They're 2 for 2 with 10 points. Then you have Yorkshire and Surrey, and also the Western Storm. They've all got 4 points. And then propping up the bottom of the table, you have Loughborough, and also you have Lancashire. They are yet to get off the mark. Still very early days in the tournament, but without a doubt, the standout player has been Suzie Bates, one of the best all-rounders in women's cricket. How good has she been? In the first game, she got 47 not out and took 2 for 8. And in the second game, she scored 119 not out of 72 deliveries. She batted the whole innings, the first 100 of the tournament. Unreal hitting from Suzie Bates. And then she followed that up by taking 3 for 15 with her bowling. She's been player of the match in both the innings, and really, quite frankly, unbelievable world-class performances from Suzie Bates so far. Now, in terms of the tournament, obviously, this is good for women's cricket to increase the awareness, to get more people interested in the game. Obviously, the overseas contingent boosts the quality, although some of the bigger names are missing, but that is due to injury. Meg Lanning's nursing that shoulder injury that she struggled with at the World Cup. Then you have Dana van Niekerk, she also pulled out with an injury, and Harmanpreet Kaur, she had a shoulder injury as well that she was carrying in the latter stages of the World Cup. But apart from those players, the rest of the elite international players are present at the tournament. One surprising omission, I believe, though, is Deandra Dottin. Where is she? I'm very surprised that no one has picked her up. Such an explosive batsman, has possibly the best 6 hitting ability in the women's game, and also with the ball, can take wickets, can bowl really good Yorkers. That to me is a glaring omission. And you've got to remember that she scored a brilliant 100 at the World Cup, although, to be fair, throughout the tournament, she was not at her best. That game, she showed really her true potential. So that's a strange one, the fact that she's not at the tournament. But apart from that, I think it's a good thing that the tournament is being shown on terrestrial television in the UK. I think there are highlights of the game they are played, and that's important because you are taking the game to a wider audience. Obviously, not everyone has pay TV, but virtually everyone has terrestrial television. So definitely, that's a good thing in terms of spreading awareness about the game, and also playing at some bigger venues like the Oval and Headingley they've played at so far. So all that just increases the profile of the game, and certainly this tournament is just another step in the development of the women's game. The one disappointing thing about the tournament so far has been the lack of close games. No game has really gone down to the wire at all. So hopefully we can see a close one sooner rather than later, but I will be keeping my eye on this tournament as it progresses. But that is it for today from me. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, you can check it out. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. All those links can be found on the Twitter page. My next podcast will be on Saturday. That will be a Hot Topics podcast, so do stay tuned for that. But until next time, thanks for listening, and I'll see you later.